could stop at your associate's degree if you wanted after 2 years, or you could get your bachelor's degree. They had a 5-year co-op where at the end of your first year, they found a job for you in the actual field of your study. The job they gave me, or that God allowed me to have, basically. This is back in 1960 now, okay? I know your brains have a hard time going that far. 1960. I worked for IBM Space Guidance Center in Owego, New York, which is 100 miles from home. I needed to get away from home. I was commuting. And we built the onboard computer system for the Saturn I rocket. We built the onboard computer system for the first atomic Nautilus submarine. And we were building the computer system onboard for the Gemini 2 spacecraft. There was one in the basement, a mock-up of it, that the astronauts would come in and test and work on. I actually saw these guys in IBM when I was like 19.
Let me know if you can hear them.
Like, wow, that just blew my mind.
Those guys were like rock stars at that point, right?
Yeah. I saw John Glenn, I saw Cooper, I saw Grissom, all those guys. It was like so cool. And I'm just, anyway, it was just a great opportunity to stay with education, okay? The best thing, though, I would share with you is do something you like. Don't worry about how much money you're going to make. Just do something you enjoy. If you're ever curious about how are essential oils actually formed? How does God's creation, how is it naturally formed in the plants and in the trees? Where is it formed? How is it formed? And as a part of that, what I ended up realizing, it all starts at the leaf. I have a whole new respect for leaf. Every piece of vegetation. This is a marvelous campus because it has so many varieties of leaves in it. But every leaf. Talk louder. Okay. Every leaf. Basically, if you turn it over, it has a vein structure, and those veins are like a highway system. And what they do is they transport whatever molecules the leaf is actually producing. They transport it throughout the leaf and then throughout the plant or the tree, based on need. The way that happens is that the process that we all say, like photosynthesis. Okay? Well, photosynthesis. If you look at photosynthesis, and this is the main point I want to make. As chemists, we divide the world up into two sections, just to keep it simple. What we call inorganic or not organic. That's all inorganic, things like rocks and sand and that sort of thing is inorganic. And then the other section we have is organic, and that would be living matter. Typically, that's how we divide it up. Now, here's the point I want to make. Carbon dioxide, which you and I are doing what with? Where's carbon dioxide coming right now? We're breathing it out, okay? So what we're breathing out right now, every piece of green vegetation, in fact, every time you and I go outside and walk on this beautiful campus, every green thing is going like, yes, thanks for walking by, because what have you just done? You've just fed it. You've just given it breath. You've given it life. So it wants to take in this carbon dioxide, which is a gas, and then of course it gets the water from the roots or however water, but it takes water, which is inorganic, and carbon dioxide, which is inorganic. And to take a step back for a minute, if you and I take water and carbon dioxide, both inorganic, and like put them together, you take a liquid water and you bubble carbon dioxide gas through it, you make basically hydrogen carbonate or carbonic acid basically, and it's still inorganic. Inorganic plus inorganic makes inorganic. And the equation for that has an arrow, which is a point on either end, which simply means it can go this way or that way. It's a reversible reaction, and it can go just as easy. In fact, if we take water and bubble carbon dioxide into it, and that's done right now in hundreds of places across the country, making things that we typically like to drink because it's carbonated water. But if you do that, if you put carbon dioxide and dissolve it in the water, then you better put a cap on it, because if you don't put a cap on it, what's going to happen? Dioxide, again, reverse reaction is going to come. Eventually just bubble right out and go, what we say is it goes flat. That simply means the gas has escaped. So, all of that I say basically to say, inorganic plus inorganic. If man makes it, inorganic plus inorganic makes carbonic acid. So what's the big deal? Well, the big deal is take a leaf, which God's created, and the sunlight. You need both the sunlight and the leaf. Take the same two substances, carbon dioxide gas, which you and I are breathing out now and every green piece of vegetation loves, the water that they get from underneath. Now you pass that through the leaf and you let sunlight shine on the leaf. A remarkable process, a synthesis takes place. And a molecule called glucose is made. Now the glucose molecule basically has, in other words, sugar. It makes sugar plus oxygen. Oh, cool. And the leaf, the green vegetation, actually has mouths or pores in it that we call, the Greek word is stoma, which means mouth or pore. So the leaves basically right now that you and I walk by, the reason we love walking by there and kind of stand around for a while is because they're breathing out the oxygen. In fact, you will actually be invigorated by being in the presence of vegetation. That's why if you ever go into the woods or you're in the forest or whatever, there's a sense of just really being, and your body is being fed by all of that oxygen that these plants are producing. So essentially then, the process that's going on is water, inorganic carbon dioxide is making organic sugar. That's the big deal. And oxygen. So it's making the food that we need, and it's making the oxygen we need. If every piece of green vegetation should die tomorrow, we would be dead within 48 to 72 hours. There would be no life on the planet. How critical a simple leaf is. I will never again look at a leaf the same way as a result of the past year they have studied. So essentially then, what we've got is a remarkable process. And here's the other key point I want to make. It makes sugar molecule. Now to make the sugar molecule, you have to put enough energy into the leaf through sunlight to form 24 different chemical bonds. In other words, the glucose molecule, C6, 6 carbons, 12 hydrogens, and 6 oxygens. When you stick them all together, you have 24 chemical bonds. Well, each one of those chemical bonds would not be built unless there was energy put in it. So, okay, it's held together, we got the sugar, great. Now, that's what happens in the daytime. What the plant does at nighttime, as well as daytime, is absolutely fascinating. This to me is like so cool, because what the plant does now, or the tree, whichever, what's going on at nighttime when it's dark? Well, it also goes on in the daytime, but primarily at nighttime.
Speak louder.
Oh, okay. It takes the sugar that it has, and now it allows oxygen to come through those little stoma, the little pores or mouths, and the oxygen, as soon as it sees the sugar, reacts with the sugar. Now, this is a one-way reaction, okay? Reacts with the sugar and makes carbon dioxide and water, plus a substance called ATP. By the way, the next time you see ATP, you don't have to know anything about the chemistry of it. I mean, it's adenosine triphosphate for those of you who are interested, but you don't have to even be interested. What I want you to do, next time you see ATP, just think all that power. all that power. It's the power. It's the energy. In other words, where is the energy that you and I need to make it through today? To breathe right now. Where's it coming from? It's coming from what you ate. Because what the plant did, okay, here's my sugar, I react, it takes in some oxygen, reacts, makes carbon dioxide, which it then uses, and oxygen, water, carbon dioxide, water, and this ATP. Because all those chemical bonds are broken. That's essentially the energy currency then. So when you and I eat a leaf of spinach, you're eating basically ATP. That's the energy source. In fact, what's so interesting about ATP, the average body right here in this place right now has about a half a pound of ATP. You and I, before the day is over, our bodies will produce on a continuous, ongoing basis more than half of your body weight. So let's say you weigh 140 pounds, you're going to make 70 pounds of ATP in the next 24 hours. Why is it important to eat good food, quality food, not frankenfood, not fast food, which is fake food? It doesn't have the ATP you are going to need to survive. Your cells need this energy to be able to carry on their microprocesses within the cell. So when we rob the cell of that opportunity, that tends to cause the cell a lot of issues. Now,
also, ATP, you had mentioned, is in a couple of the new Young Living products.
yeah, what's so really neat, and I was excited when they flipped up on the panel, the whole panel discussion, I was super excited to hear that they now have a protein, a new protein, basically, which is loaded with ATP. And I can't wait to try it. I'm really looking forward to it, because one of the things I don't get enough as you get older, your body doesn't process the food you eat as efficiently as when you're younger. So I'm really looking forward to adding this protein to my diet, hopefully to be able to give me more nutrition than I currently have. So essentially then, that miracle that's taking place in that leaf is so critically important. Now, what I want to do is I want you to leave this spot, and for the rest of your life, you're going to know the chemistry of essential oils. And all you have to remember is the following. PMS.
PMS.
Are you with me? PMS.
All
All you need to know is PMS. Now this is, Dr. Stewart established this initially. I've just added, Dr. David Stewart, I've added to what he had there to kind of help us all maybe understand it and remember it easier. Okay, why PMS? Well, what's the P stand for? The P stands for the following. There are molecules within the essential oils that we use that literally purify or clean the outside membrane of a cell. One of the main problems we have is the cells in our body, when we get absorb toxins and we breathe in toxins, they tend to coat the outside membrane of the cell. And they just sit there. And they're blocking all the doorways. Basically, there are millions of doorways, I like to look at them as doorways, where molecules can enter in, and then waste products can get out of a cell. And a lot of times what happens is the waste products can't even get out. And that's what causes the cell to break down and cause all kinds of problems. So essentially, receptors. Yeah, the receptor is like the more appropriate. They're the receptor sites, and that's another receptor sites. I refer to them oftentimes as doorways, because that's what they are. And they have special keys. In other words, you can't just, if you don't have the key, you can't get through the membrane. The membrane is like a protective doorway if you don't have the key. Now what's so cool is these molecules that purify, if you want to know the chemistry, basically they are called the phenylpropanoids. That's a family of hundreds of molecules that we're aware of that are in essential oils that actually purify or clean. So it's no different than going down a highway with a completely mud all over your window and not being able to see. I mean, it's like the cell is just done. In fact, what I like to say is the cell immediately starts to send out a message. SOS. It keeps sending out SOS in the forms of a headache, a little pain here, a cramp, or whatever. Those are all SOS signs. And what I call that is save our cells. All right, I know it's an S, but save ourselves. That basically, they're saying we need help. And see, that's all your body is saying is, I can do this, I can heal myself, but I need some help. And all I need now is help from you. And that's where essential oil molecules are going to help the cells of our body to be able to heal themselves. So the first step, P. P stands for purify. Phenylpropanoids is, if you want the fancy word. And essentially, these molecules have the ability to get the cell membrane ready to receive the next letter. Rather than M, I want you to remember the S. S means stop. Okay, so the P is for purify, the S is for stop. This to me is like so beyond. This is amazing. God has created these molecules called sesquiterpenes. Now that's a word you're going, oh, sesquiterpenes. No, wait, watch. How many years in a centennial? How many years in a centennial? 100. Anybody know how many years are in a sesquicentennial? We're celebrating the sesquicentennial of the Civil War, the last 5 years. 150. Sesquicentennial is 150. The prefix sesqua, it simply means 15. It simply means 15. So when I say it's a sesquiterpene, all I'm saying is it's got 15 carbons in it. And it's a very, very sophisticated molecule with 15 carbon. And that little baby can kind of spin itself all over the place and make its way through the membrane. So essentially now, we've got the P for purify. We got the sesquiterpene. Now, what do I mean by stop? This is what this molecule does. It's like unbelievable. It makes its way through the doorway, through the receptor site, through the cell. When it gets to the nucleus, and by the way, to get through the nucleus, you have to have the right code and the right key to get through two membranes. God creates every nucleus with a double-walled membrane. So you've got to make your way through both of those walls. When you get inside, the sesquiterpenes do the following. They literally look at the DNA that's in the nucleus of the cell. And if there's any kind of corrosion going on, if that DNA is corroded and not reproducing properly, it literally sets itself right into the structure and like a pair of molecular scissors cuts the DNA right at that point. It kills it. It cuts it right at that point. It can no longer reproduce because this big old 15 carbon sesquiterpene molecule, blump. It's sort of like taking your ladder, because the DNA molecule, basically a simple way to think of the DNA molecule, you don't have to think of it as being real fancy, although it really is. Just think of it, you've made a ladder out of rubber. If you had a rubber ladder, just a straight ladder with rubber lungs and all, and you just took the top and the bottom and you just twisted it, that's DNA. That's what it looks like. And each one of the rungs on the ladder are those messages that are unique to each of us, that make up each individual cell. So, essentially then, what the sesquiterpene does is it goes and it literally chops the ladder off. Right there, bam, done. That molecule is now unable to reproduce. So, P for purify, S for stop, sesquiterpenes. All right. The M. Now, if the S wasn't miracle enough, the M stands for mend. M-E-N-D. Fix, mend, but M for mend. So the P is purify, S is,
Stop.
the M is.
Mend.
Now, this to me is like beyond amazing. As if sesquiterpenes weren't amazing enough. The monoterpene now, same trip, into the DNA. It gets into the center of the nucleus and it goes like, I see you've been chopped off by the sesquiterpene. Are you fixable? Listen to this. It looks at the DNA molecule, and if it can be repaired, it resets it and sets it back and allows it to grow the way it originally started. It's like resetting it to the factory setting, or I can't think of it. But basically, if it's fixable, the monoterpene fits itself into the molecule, into the DNA in such a way that it allows it, now I can get started growing, but I'm growing right again. I'm not growing corroded. I'm actually growing in the right direction, the right way. So essentially then, if the monoterpene makes the judgment, I don't think you're fixable, it just backs out of the way, and the nucleus dies, the cell dies, and the body just eliminates it. It does not cause any issues. It literally prevents that cell from reproducing itself. Why are essential oil molecules so unbelievably powerful? Because the molecules that God created in the plants and trees are identical to the molecules in our body. In fact, one of the things that I learned in this past year and a half, which really amazed me, the DNA that makes up the cells in plants and trees is very similar to the DNA that you and I have in our body. Why do essential oils, which come from plants and trees, resonate so well with our body? They're the same molecules. They're doing, by the way, the exact same thing they did for the plant and the tree. This one was like amazing. This is like so. Those of you who have, how many of you have a rose bush? If you have rose bushes, from time to time, you're going to get aphids on the rose bush. And I use this as an illustration. You go out, oh my rose, these aphids, these awful bugs, etc. And then, maybe a week or so later, you start seeing ladybugs. What plant scientists, and I'm talking about research from thousands of people around the world, plant science specialists who have studied plants and the chemistry and biochemistry of plants. This is not I'm gathering their data to share with you. The bottom line is, what's going on here is the leaves on your rose bush, the leaves on a tree, whatever, if there's any bug or whatever that's attacking them, they literally, on the spot, begin to generate and synthesize molecules which attract the predators for the very bugs that are on their trees. Douglas fir tree has a issue with bugworms, for instance. In fact, the Douglas fir tree is so sophisticated, not only does it create a molecule, synthesize a molecule to attack, actually some molecules that if the budworm eats it are poisonous to the budworm. But they actually attract other predators who will go after the budworms. And what the tree does, if the budworm thinks, oh well, you got me this year, but you're not going to get me next year, guess what? The tree, literally, the needles on a tree, needles, by the way, on a pine tree, are their leaves. Those are all leaves. And what's neat is they stay green all year long. But basically, the next time, they will change the molecule that they make for the next year so that insect or whatever can't adapt to it and overcome it. Because remember, living matter is living, okay? So what's going on if you're on the other side of the fence? So if you're the bugworm, you're going like, okay, you got me this time, but I'll get you next, I'll come back after with something a little different. And the tree goes, no problem. I'm not worried. It literally synthesizes based on need, whatever it needs, to make sure that budworm doesn't grab hold and actually begin to ruin the tree. that to me just blows my mind. The sophistication. In fact, plant scientists have come to the understanding that, and this is rampant in the literature. You can, if you're interested, go on and look at it. What's amazing is they've discovered that plants, literally, as living matter, have all kinds of systems. They have immune systems. They actually have intelligence. See, it takes intelligence to actually be able to make that kind of adjustment. We define that as intelligence. When you can make an adjustment like that to what's going on around you and synthesize a different molecule, that's a form of intelligence. So when you and I have molecules in a bottle of young living essential oil, we literally have molecules which have memory of where they came from and what they did in the plant and tree. So the beauty of all that is then that when we properly apply a therapeutic essential oil to our body within the system, those molecules immediately know where to go. I mean, the first time in fact, one of the most effective things you can do with an essential oil is open the bottle and just smell it. Because what's happening is the molecules that are coming out of that bottle are going straight up your nasal passages to two tiny little glands, which are located, on either side of your nose, called olfactory glands. I think that's it's not olfactory, it's olfactory glands. I'm trying to learn how to pronounce it better. But basically, it's a gland with a curtain of fibers hanging down called cilia, just little thin fibers. And I like to think of these fibers like Legos. Like there's a little Lego on the end of the fiber. So when the molecule you just breathed in of, let's say, peppermint has, to our knowledge, hundreds and hundreds of different molecules. So the molecule that comes up, let's say, the particular one, it snaps into the bottom of that cilia, that hair, like a Lego. It's like, and the minute it makes contact, it's like plugging in a cord into an electrical outlet. All of a sudden now a current flows in the system, and that, of course, that system is connected directly to your limbic system, which is the core and the center of your brain. In the limbic system, every memory that we have, it's the control section of a brain in terms of the rest of the body. And the other thing, it's like so cool, and that's why we can say that within actually 22 seconds, your brain in particular and a lot of your body is already aware of this, and within 20 minutes, every single cell in your body has been exposed to the molecules that you just drew up. You think, you just drew up into your nasal passages, and then they were wonderful. Well, the minute you did that, the minute you open an essential oil bottle and breathe in, your body's going like, yes, give me some more. I mean, it immediately recognizes everything, goes like, wow, that's fantastic. I got to tell you this little one on the side. My wife is going to not be happy if I say this, but I'm going to say this anyway. She's embarrassed actually more. She's not that she's not happy, but she's embarrassed. One of my best friends is this guy. This is one of my best friends. My nasal inhaler. I encourage you, if you don't already have a nasal inhaler. Oh, did I drop that? Yeah, thank you. Sorry. Appreciate it. In the pocket, see? You got to go through two membranes. You got to go through this one, and then to get in the new place, you got to make sure. Okay, there you go. This nasal inhaler they're only a couple bucks, whatever. But there's a little, for those of you not familiar, there's a little cotton wick in here. And then I put like 5 drops in this end of the cotton wick, 5 and dropped it. I put it in here, snap it in place, and ta-da. This is what's like so. I put peppermint in here. I love peppermint. Peppermint loves me. I mean, basically, that's why I love peppermint, because my body loves peppermint. For whatever reason, it needs it. Now, and the reason I call this my best friend is one of the things we know about peppermint oil is it tends to drive into the body very deeply and quickly. One of my issues is gut. Diagnose is my second best friend. So, and as you get older, the efficiency of the system slows down. So I need help, especially digestive help. And from time to time, and the first time I did this, I was like, oh my gosh, is this really happening? Then I did it the second, third time, and yes, do the experiment, and it happened. You may want to try this if you think of it. Anyway, I put diagnose on my hand, and by the way, help me remember, I want to mention this. I'm going to share with you why it is absolutely critically important to read your Young Living essential oil bottle. You're going to remind me, right?
I'll remind you.
Okay. Now, let's say I put 3 drops of diagnose. I'm going to put 4 times that. I'm going to put 4 times 3 is 12. I'm putting 12 drops of like a V6, 12 to the 3 I just put in here. Okay, so I got a total of 15 now, and I spread it nicely over my tummy and my belly button in particular, because that's where most of the nerve endings are. Have a good old time with it. Well, I did that as I was wanting to have a bowel movement, whatever. And then every time I put an oil on my hand, I don't care what oil it is, I take out my nasal inhaler and I use it like a straw. I think of it like a vacuum cleaner or a straw. Because sitting on my molecule, there are literally billions upon billions of wonderful molecules. But they're on my hand. I did this, I do this, and then breathe deeply, and of course those molecules, they're evaporating from my hand, so they come through these little holes through this nasal hair, and now I'm driving them right up into my olfactory gland, into my limbic system. First time I did that, I had just put the diagnose on my tummy, and I'm doing that just routinely, and within about 20 seconds, my stomach moved, my intestines reacted. It was like all of a sudden I realized what was going on. Communication between up here and here was taking place. And that was a great reinforcer, because it's almost like there was a trigger mechanism. It's like it's down here. Not that that wouldn't help all by itself, but basically by adding it up here, I was reinforcing the whole system.
Why read the back of your bottle? Read the back of your bottle.
Thank you. Read the back of your bottle. Why? Because when God creates a plant, the average amount of essential oil, this is just average. I mean, there's a whole bunch of different plants, and they all have different levels of essential oil. But on average, a plant has about 1%. Only 1% of a plant is actually essential oil. What you have in that beautiful bottle of, say, peppermint oil from Young Living, from the bottom of the bottle to the top of the bottle, it's 100% essential oil. So it's gone from 1, which is the way it was in the plant, to 100. And on the back of the bottle, Young Living places they say dilute. If they say dilute like thieves, those of you who are not using thieves the proper way, I encourage you to reconsider. The back of your bottle says 1 drop of thieves to 4 drops of V6. 1 to 4. And if you stop and think about it, that takes us from 100% down to 20%. 1 part out of 5. And that's a much more reasonable amount of concentration to introduce it to your body. So, the reason for this is that I'll share that with you in a minute. But basically, diluting your oils. And the word dilution is really not the right one. And it hit me about 2 months ago. And I'm thinking to myself, I kept searching and searching for the last 4 years. What word is it? I've spent 57 years studying and using chemistry. And I knew this word, and it was frustrating me, and it didn't come up with it. But we as chemists, when we formulate a can of paint, when we formulate a paint we put on our walls at home or out in the house, we take pigment, and we take some sort of a binder, so that it sticks there. And then we add what we call a vehicle. We add a vehicle to the system. We add a vehicle to that system. When you open a can of paint, if you saw only what was going to end up on the wall when you were done, your can of paint would be only about 15 to 20% full. There'd be only about that much paint in the bottom of your can. The rest of it would all be, if it's oil-based, it would be oil. If it was water-based, it would be water. Now, why do I say all that? The bottom line is, we add a vehicle to the paint so that you can put a brush in it and spread it on your wall, the whole wall. You don't have to go in. I mean, if you open a can of paint, it was like that. You go you take it right back to the store because it's useless. You can't use it. Gals, your bottle of nail polish. Your bottle of nail polish is only maybe 15 to 20% pigment and binder. The rest of it is a vehicle. Now you can put a brush in it, and you can pull it out and brush and paint your nails, but you have to let them dry. Well, why are you going to let them dry? So the vehicle can evaporate off of your nails. But without the vehicle, you can't even use nail polish. You can't even use a can of paint. How does that apply to your essential oils? Essential oils, in a sense, I mean, if I can just use the analogy, that's your pigment. And you would really like, for instance, with my tummy, I mean, there's a pretty good sized area there, and if I want to cover my colon and my small intestine, that's a pretty decent area. I'll never cover that with 3 drops of diagnose. No way. However, if I add 12 drops, see, 4-to-1 for me is where I start. In fact, whenever you introduce an essential oil to your body for the first time, I recommend 9-to-1. 1 drop first and then 9. The best way, of course, the most efficient way is breathe it in first for a week or so. And then diffuse for a week or so. That's the most powerful way to introduce it gently to your body so your body doesn't get overwhelmed. It's like, yes, I love this. Give me more and more and more. So now that I have actually diluted the oil, I can spread it over a wide area. What's so cool is that the V6 nourishes, the V6 molecule, by the way, is about that long. The essential oil molecule is about that long. So you're talking about a completely different molecule, much higher molecular weight for an essential oil, or for a carrier oil molecule. Essential oil molecule real small. So what happens is I spread all that around. The essential oil molecules, which are small, they immediately start penetrating right through the pores of my skin into my bloodstream, and over a very short period of time, they're in there doing their thing. And by the way, they will do their thing. They will go directly to the cells that need them, because the cells are sending out an SOS. Remember that your cells of your body, every symptom you have is an SOS from a cell that's saying, cells are saying, I need help. That's all they're saying, I need help. I can do this if you just help me. And then when those molecules get to the cells, they will help them. But the bottom line is, you can't overwhelm yourself. Remember, your body has a built-in mechanism to keep it from being... My analogy, Thieves' Bottle says 1 to 4. Go to the store, buy yourself a can of orange juice concentrate. Think of it, orange juice concentrate. Okay, now turn the can over. What does it say on the back of the can? Add water. And it's usually like 1 can of this, concentrate, 4 cans of water. All right, do this then. You're going to say, oh, I just want my orange juice right away. I'm not going to dilute it. You open the can, pour it in the glass, then you tip the glass and introduce it to your mouth. I'll share, in fact, all of you are going like this already. Guess what your body's going to do the minute it hits your stomach? It is going to try its best to reject it, cause you to throw up, because it's way, way too concentrated. Your body is immediately saying to you, this is not going to work. So you need to read the bottle and respect the fact that, and by the way, all those V6 molecules or your carrier oil molecules sit right on the surface of your skin, nourish your skin, and really be of benefit to the skin, the epidermis layers of your body. So it's a win-win when you properly use your essential oils. Questions? Who has questions? Anybody have questions? Yeah. No problem. Go ahead. Good question. The question is, so when I take it internally, I need to dilute it 4 to 1, 1 to 1. The best way I think to take something internally is in my water. I put a drop in my water, which is here. This has a drop of peppermint oil in it. And if I put a drop of any kind of essential oil in it, it's got to be either metal or glass. The only reason I'm looking for, if anybody knows of a metal can and a metal top, let me know. Glass can, glass top that's convenient, let me know. But you must, that's probably one of the easiest ways to do that. However, what's so cool, I did the following. Watch this. I like, from time to time, to just put a drop of peppermint oil on my tongue. Now, don't do that until you're kind of 2 or 3 years down the road. Because the first time, Kathleen was so sweet. When she first introduced me to oil, my first trip to her home, she introduced me to thieves. I had a gum issue with teeth, you know. I said, "Oh, Dad, this thieves, they say, is really good for your gums, you know, and an infection, whatever." So I'm up in the bathroom, and I see the bottle of thieves, and I go, I put the thieves straight on my finger, the tip of my finger, and I just rubbed it on my gum like this, you know, like, and then in about 10 to 15 seconds, my head just went like bananas. I had to go lay down. In fact, I stayed up there for a while. They were kind of concerned what was going on. Somebody finally came upstairs to find out where the heck I was, and I didn't hurt. There wasn't any harm, but it's just way too much, you know. And Kathleen goes, "Oh, Dad, I forgot to tell you, you're supposed to dilute it. You're supposed to dilute it." Watch this. This is so cool. Put a drop on your tongue. Guess how much saliva is in your mouth and my mouth.
You need us to move?
Yeah, just walk along, but there's a quieter area.
Where was I? I was, oh yeah, saliva. Check this out. This is like so cool. I did a calculation, actually, online, and guess how much saliva is in your mouth and my mouth on average right now? Just make a guess.
2 tablespoons. Quarter ounce.
There's on average, 1 milliliter, which is 20 drops. So when you put a drop on your tongue, you're diluting it 20 to 1. 20 to 1. But I always, after I do that, I kind of let it sit there for a bit. I oftentimes will put my tongue to the roof of my mouth. I have sinus issues. Guess what's happened to my sinus issues since I use essential oil? I have a whole lot of post-nasal drip and all that stuff. So many of these molecules are what they call anti-mucolic. These fancy words, but that's mucus, anti-mucus. In other words, it'll cut the mucus and prevent it. So what I'll do is, after I've done that, and I'll let that be for like maybe 10, 15, I'll just take a drink of water and be done with it. It's fine. So it is being already diluted. Here's another really cool thing. When you and I actually breathe in from the bottle, okay, I just have the bottle here and I go, breathe that in. What do you suppose is the amount of air that we breathe in on average with every breath? Just that. Just do that. Everybody do that. I'll stand up and do that. I don't do that well enough. I need to breathe better. I have oxygen issues.
I was going to say a liter of volume, but you don't do
liters. No. You have no idea how close you are.
How many liters?
500 milliliters, a half a liter. every breath, you know, a water bottle, it's typically 500 milliliters. So with every breath, we're breathing in typically about 500 milliliters. Well, since there's 20 drops in a milliliter, that's 1,000 to 1. Why is breathing the vapors so powerful? It's so medicinal? Because our body cannot, not only can our body receive them well, but they can distribute them well now. In other words, my lungs are going to benefit immediately. My nasal passages are going to benefit immediately. And then, thank you so much,
Nina.
Nina?
Yes.
I bought, my wife bought one of these just yesterday. Sound Concepts has these nasal inhalers right over there now. So
Yeah,
you
and
guys don't.
they're on sale for, you can get 5 of these for $25, which makes each individual one about 89 cents
Yeah.
with the wick. There's the wick.
Yeah, and so there's something, if you don't have one yet, I would encourage you to consider getting a nasal inhaler. And I'm going to try to expand my nasal inhaler inventory. I only have peppermint right now, but I think it's probably wise for me to get those oils that I particularly favor or that my body particularly favors and make a nasal inhaler.
So they talk about different oils, like fatty oils, like a coconut oil or an almond oil, as driving in. If you put your oils on and then use that oil on the fatty one on top, it'll drive it in. Are you saying that the V6 does that? It drives it in?
They don't drive it.
They don't? Okay.
They don't. The fatty, now, we use the term fatty oil. As chemists, we use the term fatty oil to simply describe the molecules that are really long. And the really long molecules, the longer they are, they go from gas to liquid to solid. So if you have a solid fatty anything, butter, whatever, coconut oil, for instance, organic coconut oil, make sure it's organic. Organic coconut oil has about, I think it's 6 or 7 different fatty acids in it. And they're all of pretty good size. However, and they all have melting points that are lower than, in other words, they are solids at room temperature. That's why when you open your jar of coconut oil, it's a white solid. However, on a hot day, it's going to be a lot more soupy or whatever. Or if you just put it under warm water, it'll turn all liquid. Because the melting point of coconut oil, the average fatty acid in coconut oil, is about 76 degrees. So at 76 degrees, it'll all, and I can always tell what temperature it is in the room, literally. By I have my coconut oil in a small little container that I can see through, and what'll happen is, if the temperature does drop and the room drops down into the low 70s, it'll be all solid. Now, those fatty acid molecules, because they're so long and so large, they tend to sit on the surface and nourish the outer layers, if you will. They're way too large to make their way deeply into the system, whereas the essential oil molecules are very small comparison-wise, and they will immediately percolate down through your pore structure into the bloodstream, which then takes it throughout your body. So, good question. You don't have to be, like I say, the fatty acids in particular. I like coconut oil. I really do. And one of those fatty acids in coconut oil, by the way, is a liquid at room temperature. One of them, one out of the 6 or 7, is a liquid, and that manufacturer can then distill or refine or cut out or fractionate. Another word for all that is fraction. In other words, you're going in and just getting a fraction of what's in there, and they call it fractionated coconut. So fractionated coconut oil, when you look at it, is a liquid. And it's always a liquid. regular temperature. And that's why it's convenient sometimes to use like a fractionated coconut oil as a carrier oil. Certainly would be perfectly fine. The reason that peppermint oil is so good for circulatory issues, and that's a better way to say it, is that the molecules in peppermint oil have the ability to penetrate through into the fine capillaries that carry the blood, that are the ones that get blocked, that cause your headache. So the peppermint oil molecules are able to go in essentially and unblock that whole system. So, and because they are so powerful, they don't block, they unblock. So what they would block, perhaps, that general statement might be said in relation to whatever a homeopathic remedy might be, but I'm not so sure that blocking would be the thing, other it might actually compete or reinforce, actually. So I don't know an answer to that from a homeopath, but what I do know is that one of the reasons that peppermint oil, and I think I love it so much, use it as a nasal inhaler, is it's a driver. In other words, it literally pushes. It's a wonderful molecule, by the way. Peppermint oil, if you, for instance, with the diagnose on my tummy, one of the things that I have done in the past is after doing that, always wait at least a few minutes, then I put a drop of peppermint on my, let's say I'll put, might as well do the same, 3 drops of peppermint, then I'd put 4 times 3 or 12 drops of V6 with that, and then I would put that, say now it's 3 to 4 or 5 minutes have passed, as a second layer over the digest, which is still sitting there making its way in, but now the peppermint comes along and goes like, whoom, get in. It pushes because it drives. In other words, the nature of the volatility of those molecules, which is a fancy word, it simply means how quickly they evaporate, is such that they can push in even more. In fact, if you go to Dr. Stewart's book on the chemistry of essential oils and look up the molecules that are in peppermint, it's an amazing profile of very different families of molecules that are in peppermint that I think make it so effective.
Thank you.
Other questions?
Good question.
Layering oils versus blending them yourself. What's the difference?
Very good question. One of the things I would recommend to all of us, including myself, because I haven't learned about blending. I want to learn that. That's a part. It's right in my references that I have, and I haven't learned it yet. I haven't taken time to learn it yet. But blending is an art. It's a scientific and technical art, but you better know what you're doing to blend. So what I encourage you to do is never attempt to blend your own oils unless you've done your research and you know that you're going to have a good blend. Young Living's expertise, and Gary Young and others have years and years of experience, and he knows which oils can be blended with which oils. Single oils you can apply, and one of the things I would also recommend is do not mix. Same rationale. Don't take a blend and mix it with another blend. You have no clue what you possibly just put together. You know what I'm saying? I like to come down on the safe side with everything that has to do with any kind of molecules. And now that I'm learning about natural molecules, that's even more so. It's a natural molecule, be on the safe side. So the way I apply that, as far as essential oils is concerned, is leave the blend as it is, apply it. Now, wait. Like I said, I put the digest on, which is a blend, but within the next 4 or 5 minutes, I can take a single oil, add it to mine, and then apply that. And that's the layering technique, and that is a good technique. That's a safe technique, because the way to look at it is this way: the molecules you applied first have run way ahead of the ones you're going to apply in the next 4 or 5 minutes. Which reminds me, therapeutic grade essential oils, when we use them, they are metabolized by the body in 2 hours, 4 hours, and we know that essential oil molecules are metabolized in 2 hours.
Because the drugs are bigger molecules.
One was man-made, has no ability to communicate with your body. What I want to share with you is that every molecule that man has made and will make does only one thing. Here comes the SOS, which stands for Save Ourselves. Because it builds a brick wall. It builds a brick wall that keeps a message from being sent to you. It literally prevents the message from being, by building a brick wall, by actually blocking the message. And the other thing I would share with you as a chemist, I need to share this with you. I didn't bring my thing, but I'm going to share this with you. When we go into a chemical lab and build a molecule, what do we use as building blocks? Well, what we use, we drill a hole in the ground and go thousands of feet down to find dead and decayed matter that's been down there for thousands of years under high temperature and high pressure. We then draw it up in the form of an oil well. We collect it in big 55-gallon drums. We then ship it to a distillery that we call a refinery, and we pull off fractions of molecules, specific molecules. And as a chemist, I would go to Fisher Scientific or Aldrich Chemical or whatever, and I would order certain molecules, certain chemicals, bring them into the lab, because I knew if I had these, it's just like a kitchen, a laboratory is a kitchen, and I would gather together all the stuff I needed to make this new molecule I wanted to make, all from man-made molecules. And it wasn't until near the end of the DVD I just finished that I realized these molecules are all dead. Dead molecules, in other words, molecules that are obtained from dead and decayed matter are dead. That's pretty simple. It's just basic. And the other statement that came to my mind is dead and decayed molecules cannot communicate with living matter. It's impossible. They're dead. So what do? And by the way, the model for medicine in this country is called allopathic. Allo means block. On purpose. That's the model. Every medical professional that goes through the typical medical university spends thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars to get a medical degree, is trained only in allopathic medicine. Allo, to block, pathic, the path. That's what that model is referred to. The original Merck manual, which is now this thick, in the early 1890s when it was first published, a great deal of the treatments for whatever was known in that day as the illnesses and problems, a great deal of the treatments were all herbs and natural products. And today, it's that thick with many more different problems. And the beauty of an essential oil molecule is it's God's creation. It's living matter, and it's already got the ability to communicate with every single cell in our body. Let me just read this for you. Oh, by the way, I've got to show you a picture. You take a peppermint leaf, and we grind it in our fingers. You bring up and you just smell it. It's like, oh, that's just so one. Or basil. All I do is basil. Oh, real natural basil. On the surface of the leaf, there are little glands called secretory glands. It's kind of a fancy word I'm trying to learn. They're little places where the oil that the plant leaf produces are held and kept. This is a picture, a scanning electron microscope picture of exactly what the surface of a clary sage leaf looks like. Don't they look like a bunch of essential oil water towers? and up through the stem of the water tower. In here is sort of part of the production facility. And then these are storage vessels for the
glands store
the essential oil. Yeah, these glands store, and this is on the surface. This is secretory gland on the surface. This little guy here, I did a quick calculation on how many molecules, a rough idea of how many molecules were contained. This, by the way, this magnification is around 900 times the actual size. And of course, we can never see these. So we make it up. In that little round sphere there are approximately 100, so I get this right, 100 trillion molecules. That trillion is 4. That's 5 sets of 3 zeros. 100 trillion is 4 sets of zeros and 2 zeros. So 100 trillion. I mean, the molecules are so tiny. It's very hard for any of us to just imagine how tiny a molecule really is. Let me spell it for you. S-E-C-R-E-T-O-R-Y. Secretory glands. Now, that's for like the leaf, the trees. The trees actually have secretory canals or resin canals where actually, actually these canals actually come this way. Now, well, yes, they go up and down, you're right, but what happens, like with the frankincense tree, do you know how they actually, how they get frankincense from the tree? They take a large knife and they scrape the bark away, they wound the tree. And then what happens is, just like what happens when we wound ourselves, we bleed. Well, the tree bleeds the resin from the secretory canals that are in the tree. They bleed out, and then very quickly, when they hit the oxygen, they solidify, they become solid, and then they help protect that. And then what happens is, they'll come along now and, say, several days later, once it's dry, and they will cut those off and put them in a basket. That's number one. Then they'll wound it again and let it bleed again, if you will, and then dry again. Then they'll collect that in basket number 2. They'll wound it again, same spot, and let that bleed. Now you're getting the resin, the frankincense resin from the heart of the tree, the purest resin is coming out now, and that's the resin that's collected to extract by distillation, young living extract from that resin. Resin in the basket number 1 goes to people who are just whatever, number 2, that basket would be like, see, these would be the fragrance people and whatever, and that they don't care. They don't care about the purity, whatever. And then what they'll do is they'll leave that alone. So another kind of secretory gland is called a cavity. Next time you pick up an orange, a lemon, or a lime, and you look at all those tiny little pockets, behind the pocket is your essential oil. It's sitting right there. That's why if that rind that we take off when we eat the fruit, if you take that rind and you squeeze it hard enough, you'll get a drop of essential oil. Be ready to try and get it somehow and process it in your body. That's pure essential oil. You're squeezing out of the rind. The other thing is, that reminds me, whenever you're using a citrus oil, like a bergamot, a grapefruit, a lemon, a lime, whatever, make sure if you put that on your skin, now if you put it where the sun don't shine, there's no problem. But if you put it on your skin, do not go out in the sun. Okay? When God has a lemon seed, which is now growing a plant, the sun's rays, God puts molecules in a system that actually increase the intensity of the sun's rays so that fruit will mature faster. And when we extract those oils, they do the same thing. So be mindful, that's just a protection. And also when you look at your blends, you might put a blend on and you go oh, why did I get a rash or a red one? Well, if you look what purification, I think is one. If you look what's in there. If there's a citrus oil in your blend, make sure you don't put it on your children or whatever. If they're going to be out playing in the pool on a hot day, because they can develop a burn. Does that make sense? But that's why.
People use licensing calling on their children, and then they send them outside.
Check what's in. Like if it's got bergamot in it, that's a citrus oil. Don't push the envelope. In other words, I always try to come down on the side of safety.
You could put something on the bottom of their feet.
Where the sun don't shine.
The sun don't shine, yeah, that's okay.
But always watch. But always watch your own personal reaction, because even if you put it on their feet, some people can still very seriously react. We'll answer more questions. I would like, just in case, because it's close to 5, a little after 5.
Okay.
So, will you please share how people can get a hold of you? Share about your DVD so that they can share this with their teams. Because you're not going to be able to reiterate everything that you've heard here back to your team. So
okay, basically, I've got a business card. Please get one when you leave. I got them with me. But I'm on. My email is DRDAD41.
Dr. Dad 41.
Dr. Dad 41. Now you know how old I am. At bellsouth.net.
At bellsouth.net.
It's on my business card. I'm on Facebook as David O'Brien.
Just O-B-R-I-E-N. There's normally an apostrophe in his name,
they don't let you put
that in.
But underneath in parentheses, they let me put the David P. O'Brien.
David P. O'Brien, PhD.
And then I have 2 DVDs now. This one on essential oils of plants and trees I just finished last month. It's available from Sound Concepts, which is right downstairs. They don't have it here, but you can order it from them.
So Crown Diamond Tools.
Oh yes.
Or go to crowndiamondtools.com.
Right, go to crowndiamondtools.com, and it's there as well. There is another DVD, my first one, called Drugs or Genuine Essential Oils. It is not drugs or genuine essential oils. It is not compliant in the sense of, it's not super compliant.
It's not super FDA compliant.
And the second DVD that I made on plants and trees, I particularly structured it so that it has like 10 to 15 minute segments that you can just show that. Like if you're having a meeting and you just want to show that piece of it. It's an hour and a half, by the way, of the essential oil chemistry of plants.
And the title of it?
The Essential Oils Chemistry.
The Essential Oils Chemistry of Plants and Trees. It has a purple cover. And you can actually order it upstairs. Okay, they can add the number. They can go online and add the number to your order. So just so you know, it is actively online.
Okay.
And please, I'll have my business card right here, so you can
have your email on it.
You can have it. You're welcome. And by the way, on the back of this business card is a picture of the plants and trees.
There you go.